The Man with the Yin-Yang Eyes. Season 3. Episode 8. After my questions, the merchant seemed to have sensed something unusual about us. Big D told me in advance, as long as they act, they immediately rush to the door to escape. But contrary to Big D's prediction, the merchant turned to me and said, "Hey kid, what is your purpose in coming here? Stop talking to me about stupid snakes. If you don't give me a satisfactory answer, this conversation won't end very happily." Seeing that the merchant's attitude wasn't as hostile as Big D had expected, I immediately thought it was possible to negotiate with this merchant. I said to him, "Okay, I won't go around anymore. I know you're supplying wolves to a mage. Between him and me, there are many things to talk about, but I can't find him, so I have to find you." Big D also added that please respect him and give us some information. The merchant was still silent at this point. I continued to tell him, "I know you guys always have your own rules, so that customer information is not exposed. I don't ask that much of you. I just need an address. Whether we can find him or not depends on my luck." To my persuasion and above all to my relationship with Big D, the merchant finally agreed. He said to me, "As for the name, there is no need to say because it is not certain that it is the real name, and as for the location, we will deliver him a shipment tonight. You can follow." Hearing the merchant say that, I happily turned to Big D and said, "Big D, it looks like we'll have to be deliveryman tonight." Then the merchant told us the address where they would deliver the goods. I told him he could give this to us to hand it over to the mage himself. I also added that he didn't have to worry about devouring all of his goods because I wouldn't know who to sell them to if I did. After thinking for a while, the merchant agreed, but he asked Big D to deposit 70% of the goods. After Big D agreed, he led us to the back of the warehouse. In a small alley, there was a large truck parked. At this point, Big D approached the merchant and said, "Hey Foxy, we've known each other for a long time. Don't you know there's something I've been wanting to do since I first met you?" To the merchant's surprise, Big D slowly bent down to take the cigar in his hand. Big D continued, "Doing business with you is really not easy. Over the years, I have also introduced many customers to him, but he did not even give a cent of the commission." Hearing these words of Big D, I guess that business between Big D and this merchant is not going well. After holding the cigar in his hand, Big D brought it to his lips and took a long drag and continued, "Didn't even pay me a dime, but today there is a little thing I want to ask you to do, and you make me pay a deposit. Do you feel like a damned bastard?" As soon as he finished speaking, Big D immediately threw a slap in the face of the merchant. Because he was so surprised, he did not have time to dodge. "This damn fat guy is such an unpredictable person. He told me to be cautious just now, but now he hit the merchant." I immediately approached Big D and said, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you messing with him?" To my question, Big D calmly replied, "It's different inside, it's different outside. I have to teach this bastard a lesson today. Prepare yourselves, we will rob their carts." Suddenly beaten, the merchant was extremely angry, raised his hand to rub his face, and looked at us with fiery eyes. Then he shouted, "What are you doing standing there? Quickly catch them for me. Today, I have to chop them up to feed the lions." As soon as the merchant finished speaking, two big guys behind him immediately rushed towards us. Due to pre-negotiation, we completely took the initiative. We understand that this is their territory. We will surely die if we let these two big guys get close. So when the two juniors of the merchant had not had time to rush over, they were kicked back by me and Big D. After our heavenly kick, the two juniors were thrown backward, bumping into the merchant. The three immediately fell to the ground. Immediately Big D told me to run the truck again. The truck jumped up and sped away. He said this time I would drive. As I drove back to the truck, I said to Big D, "This truck is so big, I'm afraid I can't control it." Big D immediately replied to me, "Don't worry, kid, don't rush into the lamppost." After that, Big D and I quickly got into the truck. I immediately started the engine to get the truck rolling. The merchant and his men were still determined not to let us go. They began to rush into the car to find a way to get inside. I continued to press the accelerator pedal for the truck to go. At this time, the two subordinates could not stand it and fell, leaving only the merchant who refused to let go. His mouth kept cursing at me and Big D, and he kept calling his subordinates to stop the truck. Under my control, the truck wobbled wildly. But thanks to that, I was able to knock the merchant's handle to the ground. After a while of dodging to avoid the boxes placed on both sides of the road but failed, I was finally able to get off the main road. At this point, Big D was still staring at the truck's window. He said that the merchant and his subordinates were still chasing behind. Big D insisted that they still hadn't given up and kept urging me to speed up before they caught up and climbed into the truck again. Immediately I pressed the accelerator pedal. The car jumped up and sped away. Looking in the rearview mirror, I could see the merchant and his men chase a bit more and then stopped because they were too tired. I breathed a sigh of relief now. For the time being, I wouldn't have to meet the lions at lunch. Before that, Big D let me drive his truck, but this large truck with me was a challenge. I felt a bit overwhelming. But after a while of controlling, I started to get used to it and control it quite skillfully. I kept honking the horn so other cars could get out of the way before I was hit. Now that everything was fine, I started nagging Big D everything that was going well was messed up by him. To my displeasure, Big D slowly explained, "Come on, you really don't understand anything. You think I have a big deposit to pay for this item. I have to sell my entire store to be able to pay that deposit. And we can't go to the rendezvous point empty-handed." After Big D's explanation, I stopped nagging him. But Big D's handling was a bit too hasty. I told him, "That name Foxy, he's not a man without reason. I believe that if I continue to convince him, he will likely lend us these goods. But it's all been ruined by you." It was still early, so I decided to drive home, and while driving, I asked Big D, "Now, what are we going to do next? If you have any plans, tell me in advance, don't let me be surprised like before." Dissatisfied with my question, Big D said, "Come on, stop nagging like a woman. Back then, it was just an unavoidable situation. Let's just go home for now, anyway. We have to prepare our tools to deal with that mage." After struggling for a while, I finally managed to drive the truck back home. Before returning home, we parked the truck quite a distance from the house and listened to the situation. After ensuring that the merchant and his men hadn't arrived at the store, we drove home. Since the truck was quite large, we couldn't enter the alley behind the house, so we had to park it in front of the main door. After entering the house, the first thing I do is take off Big D's clothes and troublesome jewelry. I can't stand the smell of them for another minute. While I was changing clothes, Big D prepared the necessary tools to deal with the mage. I kept reminding Big D of what to bring. After a while of preparation, Big D patted the box and said everything was ready. He also said that, with this box, I could fight the mage all day without worrying about missing anything. After preparing everything, we went downstairs to go to the rendezvous point. At this moment, we heard the noise of cursing and the shadows of people looming outside the door. Needless to say, the merchant and his subordinates have come to deal with us. Not wanting to mess with the angry gangsters, Big D led me towards the back door. After we went out, we carefully checked to see if anyone was watching outside. If we were to be discovered at this point, all the plans we had planned would be ruined. After making sure there was no one else in the alley, Big D and I cautiously headed for the front door to approach the truck. As long as we can successfully get into the truck, we won't have to worry about the merchants talking anymore. Right now, Big D is sticking his head out from the edge of the wall to observe the movement. At the main door right now, the merchant and his men were constantly banging and cursing. The merchant shouted, "Damn fat, get out of here, don't make me angry. You can't escape. If you don't come out, I'll burn this dog's nest." As he said that, as he kicked on the door, one of his subordinates seemed to have run out of patience. He started trying to break the door. Taking that opportunity, Big D and I quickly snuck into the truck. While they were still screaming and cursing, I pressed the gas to start the truck. As soon as they heard the engine, they understood that we were playing a prank again. The merchant shouted angrily and chased after the truck. When the merchant and his subordinates ran towards the truck also started to accelerate. Big D looked out the door and shouted, "Hey Foxy, I borrowed the truck for a while. I'll give it back when I'm done. You still have a lot to learn, kid." As if the anger had reached its peak, the merchant shouted angrily and chased the truck. But if he was even angrier, he could only helplessly watch the truck drive away. After successfully abandoning the annoying merchant, I continued to drive to the rendezvous point. Big D constantly guided me along the way because of this place I had never been to before. At this time, the street is no longer full of traffic, so I also have less stress when driving. After about half an hour of driving, we reached where the merchant would do his business. It appears to be a cemetery but is no longer in use. Looking at the surroundings, Big D said, "These bastards also know how to choose real trading locations. There is no one here at this hour. We don't know what awaits us behind this door." I stopped the truck in front of the gate and started to watch, struggling to figure out how to get in. We don't even know how to communicate between them. At that moment, the automatic door opened to my surprise, but after observing, I realized the security camera placed on the gate. Without hesitation, I immediately drove inside. After entering, the scenery on both sides of the road made Big D and I feel uninterested. On both sides of the road are many tombs of all sizes, but perhaps because no one has taken care of them for a long time, many of them have lost their original shape. In addition, trees and wild palm trees are overgrown everywhere. Certainly, seeing this scene, the faint of heart will immediately turn their heads. After a few more minutes of driving, we were all the way. At the end of the road was a huge warehouse. I gradually figured out that this entire land was bought by someone for a personal purpose. The graves here were probably left by them intentionally to distract the curious. As I drove close to the door of the warehouse, the door opened again automatically. This made me not happy at all. Since entering here, they have monitored our every move, while we haven't seen their faces yet. I immediately drove into the warehouse. When I went inside, I realized that this warehouse was much bigger than what I saw outside. After running to the middle of the warehouse, I stopped the truck and looked around. The scene here was quite similar to the merchant's warehouse, except there was no terrible smell of rotting meat. Around are many iron cages used to keep animals. After observing for a while, I saw some animals that appeared to be dead. I immediately recognized that one of them was the animals whose souls had entered the two people who attacked us in the hospital. Just like humans, animals can't live without a soul. After waiting a few more minutes, but no one came out to meet us, Big D and I got off the truck and continued to look around. In addition to some dead animals, there are many cages with living animals inside. I immediately spoke up to Big D. "I feel like something is wrong here." Looking at this warehouse, it is certain that we have come to the right place, but why is no one showing up? Right next to us was the cage of a giant python and a lion. My voice seemed to have caught their attention, and the lion immediately bared its fangs in my direction and roared angrily. Before the strange happenings in this warehouse, Big D also feels insecure. He is always extremely optimistic. Big D told me that if something bad happened, for example, if he is surrounded by a group of people, he will immediately release the animals in the truck and find a way out of the warehouse. As soon as I heard Big D's proposal, I immediately objected. Don't think about such a crazy thing. What will you give back to the Foxy if you let them out and don't catch them? Then maybe he'll kill you for real. At my warning, Big D just saw it as a joke. He pointed 2 fingers to his eyes and said, "Come on, kid, don't be so afraid of him. Now go check your surroundings. I'll be here to keep an eye on you." Big D was about to say a few more words to tease me, but he suddenly stopped. A series of consecutive noises made Big D startle. Both of them silently listened attentively. These sounds seemed to be the sounds of animals trapped in cages trying to get out. If they managed to get out simultaneously, it wouldn't be difficult to predict that Big D and I would be killed by them. Big D turned to me and said, "Gregory, did you hear anything? These animals seem to have gone mad. We have to come up with something quickly, or we won't make it in time." To Big D's concern, I just nodded to show that I understood and continued to consider the situation. As I continued to observe the animals being trapped, I realized that they could not get out. They were naturally so agitated because there was some invisible force exerting pressure on them. In the face of danger, instinct tells them to find a way out. At this moment, the large python locked near where I stood, writhed violently, and then lay motionless. I realized that its soul had just come out. I quickly realized that the mage was already in action. He expelled the snake's soul, but I don't know to whom he will put the snake's soul because I feel there is absolutely no person here. Suddenly I was startled and said to Big D, "Damn it, it seems that this witchcraft can even put souls into corpses. I'll go out and check right away." Before I left, I told Big D to search around the warehouse area to find the mage. I knew for sure he wasn't far from here. After telling Big D, I immediately rushed out of the warehouse. I ran towards the nearest graves. At this moment, I noticed a hand sticking out of the ground. Looking at that hand, I dare to confirm that it is the hand of a dead person. Based on the color and degree of decay, this person has been dead for quite a while. After sticking out of the ground, the hand flexed like a snake's head. It constantly wiggled as if it wanted to find a fulcrum to cling to. A few seconds later, the whole arm had come out of the ground. It began to press down to pull up the body still on the ground. By the time I had time to run back, the corpse was already halfway out of the ground. Because he had been dead for a long time, this man's body had rotted in many places. From those rotting places, worms begin to emerge. Along with that extremely terrifying appearance was a terrible stench, making me want to vomit immediately as soon as I smelled it. Soon the corpse had come out of the ground. Instead of straightening up, he was crawling on the ground like a snake. Looks like what I feared has come true. This magic not only controls the living but also controls the dead. Seeing the corpse crawling towards me, I immediately raised my hand to form a seal. I don't want to fight this thing at all. Just seeing it makes me nauseous. I don't want to touch them. Not to mention that his body no longer felt anymore. Hitting them won't do any good. After creating the seal, I immediately launched it at the corpse. But in stark contrast to the initial slowness and clumsiness, the corpse became extremely agile. To my astonishment, he twisted his body away from the attack in the blink of an eye. As soon as he successfully dodged, he didn't stop and immediately charged at me. His dashing speed was so fast that I couldn't form a seal again. Fortunately, I had foreseen this situation, so I brought the demon rope before going out. I immediately grabbed one end of the rope and swung the other end at the corpse. After having the spirit of the snake in it, the corpse becomes extremely active. Once again, he dodged my attack. Without wasting a second, the corpse continued to attack me with its mouth wide open. Fortunately, before the body could attack, I was able to dodge to the side. At the same time, before he could rush over, I finished reciting the incantation to create a magic seal in the palm of my hand. I immediately clamped my fingers and pointed my hand towards the corpse. As soon as I saw my hand movements, the corpse immediately swerved before I could hit it. Constantly hitting the target that didn't hit the target made me extremely uncomfortable. In that moment of neglect, the body was already behind me. I realized that his target right now was my neck. Not letting him achieve his goal so easily, I immediately turned around, using my elbow to attack the corpse. But he was so fast that my attack instantly fell into the air. After dodging my blow, the corpse moved under my feet. When I looked down, he opened his mouth wide, let out a scream, and then rushed up like lightning. I quickly realized his target was my throat. As soon as the corpse charged, I could only instinctively fall backward to dodge. At the same time, I managed to create a seal in the palm of my hand. As soon as the corpse's disgusting mouth was less than an inch away from my throat, I successfully launched my seal in the middle of the corpse's body. As soon as it was hit by my attack, the snake's soul was expelled. The body also followed and collapsed at my feet. The whole body of the corpse is now just a pile of dirt. I guessed that the bones of the corpse had been buried for a long time. It couldn't stand the speed of movement, so it broke. While I couldn't breathe to regain my strength, a series of noises came from behind me. I immediately turned my head to look back and saw that two corpses were now trying to get up behind me. Looks like if I don't find that mage soon, I'll have to fight to the end with these magical beasts.